Joining us in the studio is the Director General of the Vision 2030 Delivery Secretariat, Kenneth Muige. Karibu sana into the studio.
Asante sana.
It's good to have you. Welcome to the hot seat of the Situation Room.
Thank you.
We will make it moderately warm for you. Let's start off with the day's proverb. It is a Kamba proverb. Moyo ndoto wake lomoni.
Moyo ndoto lake lomoni. What does that mean? Sweetness doesn't remain in the mouth.
You're Kamba?
No, I'm not.
Hey, this man has Google Translate.
Yeah, somewhere, just resident in
the vision.
his
Vision
REM.
2030, when it's fully implemented, everybody will have Google Translate in their head.
In the head.
Muyondo tola kilomoni, and that's what exactly it means. Yeah, the good taste does not remain on the lip for long. No situation is permanent. Yeah, the good times don't last.
True that.
Well, you look at it from the good times don't last. That sounds a bit negative, right?
It does.
So let's just call it no situation is permanent.
It's permanent.
Yeah,
Sheesh,
that's much
we like
better.
The only
good times.
constant is change.
The only constant is change.
Yes.
Kenneth, karibu sana.
Asante.
This Vision 2030, 2030 is just about what?
9 years.
It's 9 years and 3 months away.
And 3 months away. And the Vision 2030 was saying that it was going to transform this country. Let me just read what the blueprint is. It aims to transform Kenya into an upper middle income industrialized country.
Newly industrialized.
Newly. So you want us to add newly?
Newly -industrializing.
Okay. Upper middle income, newly industrializing country, offering a high quality of life to its citizens in a clean and secure environment by 2030. The vision is founded on 3 strategic pillars. That's the basis of the implementation of the pillar. So we have the social pillar, the economic pillar, the political pillar. But let me not talk about this. You are the man who's running the show.
Yeah.
Okay? So what was the vision? And what are these pillars, or what are the enablers? So that before that, after that, we'll come to looking at whether we are anywhere close.
Okay. Very, very briefly. Vision 2030 was the first attempt to do long-term planning, development planning for this country. What you had was what you call episodic efforts. You have poverty reduction strategy, you have something else strategy. So under the government of His Excellency President Mwai Kibaki, this was the first time government said, okay, can we take a long-term view of things and plan and develop, start thinking long-term, not just in cycles of 5 years, the electoral cycle. So what was called the National Economic and Social Council was a precursor. It was full of wonks, all the brains you can find in this country were and still there. And that's when they decided, let's plan long-term for this country, so that all the efforts, we collect taxpayers' shillings every year, and then the taxpayers' shillings get dissipated in various ways. A lot of the times you find that there's silo mentality in government. So Ndu is doing X, Eric is doing Y, Ken is doing Z. And then the net effect is not times 3, it is divided by 3. Because your efforts and his efforts and my efforts are not coordinated. So this was, I would think it was a seminal change. It's very good to think long-term and to plan long-term, because that guides what you do working backwards. So the development plan, Kenya Vision 2030, was around 2008, it was mooted. 2009, Kenya Gazette notice was passed. And we survived by Kenya Gazette notice until today, having done an act of parliament. Maybe we'll get to that before I leave office, hopefully. Yeah.
One can hope.
One can hope.
Right. So looking at this long-term plan, so we're looking at the year exactly that this was established was in the year
08.
2008.
Yeah.
So over 24 years is what the plan was to say that, look, or rather 22 years was to say that over 22 years, this is what we will get done.
Yes.
Now, 22 years for development is a block, and it seems like too big a chunk of time to do things at once. Was this time then split and said, in the next 2 years, we shall do such. In the next 5 years, we shall make sure we've achieved such. Or were you just looking at 22 years and saying at the end of 22 years, all of this is what we would have achieved?
All the rivers, bringing the
Everything,
logs,
22
the
years.
silt.
All the good things.
Yes.
Clean air, environment, schooling. What were we?
The genius of this, plan, and I use that word advisedly, is because Vision 2030, as conceptualized, is implemented in 5-year medium-term plans, and they coincide with the electoral cycle. So, for example, the first MTP, Medium-Term Plan 1, was 2008-2012. And the biggest achievement there, of course, was the enactment of the new constitution. More about which we'll talk later. MTP 2 came in 2013 to 2017. Medium-Term Plan 2. That was the Kenyatta 1 administration, Jubilee administration. And then we are currently now in MTP 3, Medium-Term Plan 3, which is running from 2018 to 2022. So what happens is that the vision is implemented in cycles of 5 years. So, and this is the genius of it is because it's aligned to the electoral process as well. So that you don't find a new government coming in and saying, what's all this nonsense? We don't want it. We want to do something different. So it's aligned to the electoral cycle, so that an incoming administration picks up from where the last one left off. They can emphasize particular things, like happened in MTP3. In this current administration, the Jubilee administration, this last 5 years, and the MTP3 decided to focus on 4 issues, the big 4. The big 4 is an extract from Kenya Vision 2030. It just says we want to concentrate on these 4 things, but everything is driving towards the overall vision.
Sure.
So that's the way it's organized.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if we look at then at the first one, politically we achieved by having a new constitution.
Well, we had a great start by having a new constitution.
Okay.
Yes. Far from achievement.
Far from achievement. At least we got a new document that was,
Correct.
universally
Ground zero,
accepted,
where we all operate from.
and we have a new political system, a new movement in politics, economically and socially. What did we gain? And by the time we're going into elections in 2013?
In 2013, I think the biggest thing which has happened in this country and which is affecting all sectors of the economy is a new constitution. Because it brought in a whole new a new governance structure with devolution, first of all. It changed the structure of the executive. In the Bill of Rights, it has empowered Kenyans tremendously, to the extent where we're beginning to wonder, is it too much now?
Too many rights.
Yeah, too many rights are being exercised all over the place willy-nilly. In the individual rights have been lifted to such an extent that the public interest, in my opinion, is beginning to vanish. So as we implement this new constitution, it's going to take some time to correct and figure out where is the correct balance between all these rights you have, the obligations of the state, your obligations as a Kenyan, etc. So we are still, it's not cut and dried.
Right.
We're still figuring it out.
Okay.
We're blundering along.
But I guess what I would really love to know then is, all right, so was the delivery of the new constitution in 2010, right? Yeah. Then the delivery secretariat also has a mandate. How did then this new constitution allow, or what did it create for the delivery unit to deliver in terms of the vision? Tangible things that Kenyans can look at today and see, okay, this happened as a result of this. This happened as a result of this. This happened as a result. Do we have those? Or are we still kind of hoping something will come through?
I think one way of this job I do is an interesting job because you're trying to make 48 cats cross the road on one zebra crossing at the same time. You have 47 county governments, you have a national government. They're all very busy. Very, very busy. 8 to 5 every day, 365 days a year, working, doing things, executing their mandate. If someone needs to keep an eye on what Ndu is doing, what Ken is doing, what Eric is doing, so that she's not shooting off towards Machakos and you're shooting off towards Kisumu and I'm shooting off towards Kajiado, but we're trying to build something in Nairobi. That doesn't work. So our work as a secretariat is to keep a bird's eye view on what everyone is doing, and they do this through reporting. We have the plan. We have the work plans, which are derived from Vision 2030. We align everything. So the whole of government planning is actually aligned. There's a lot of work that goes on in government behind the scenes to align the vision and the current priorities. And for example, the next MTP, because now we've started developing the next medium-term plan, 4, which is going to run from 22 to 27. And I'll be trying to involve the political players in this process because we're hearing a lot of statements out there. But the ship of state moves. And it moves, and to change the ship of state by 1 degree, 2 degrees, 3 degrees, it's not easy. So there are processes going on, and we need to make sure that the political discussions also is aware of these processes, so that they can develop their manifestos, realizing that everything you're doing, even in politics, is leading or should be leading towards an overall goal.
You know, Ken, the fear and feeling of many would be that those brains that sat in the Economic and Social Council and came up with a Vision 2030 did a very good document.
Yeah.
But then the politicians who are running government do not have a clue what this document is all about or what they're expected to do. Is it true that, first of all, is that fear well-founded? Number two, when you talk about the medium-term plans, let's say, did the drafters of the Vision 2030 say, by this time, this is what we need to see? And within the medium-term plan 3, for example, these are the main important factors, such that now you can tell me that the political leadership of the country coming up to say the Big Four agenda is our focus, it's actually derived from what the vision people had said.
Yes.
This is what we should be doing in the year 2018 to 2022.
Yeah. The vision did not quite say that between 2008 and 12, this is what you're going to do. What it does is it provides an overall framework for development. For example, under the economic pillar, under the social pillar, under the political pillar, there are objectives we want to achieve. Under the economic pillar, we want to achieve 10% growth per annum over the period. Now that is easier said than done. Man proposes, God disposes. You can plan all you want. When Corona comes, it knocks you sideways and everything goes back to zero. So these are the sort of things we have. And then we have, you have a political upheaval. You have economic upheaval of one kind or the other. You have global pandemics. You have our typical Kenyan problems of, you know them. So the aspiration is 10% per annum. The achievement, of course, may not be that for various factors, those within our control and those without our control. If you look at the fear of clueless government, the beauty with long-term development planning is you can't go far off the rails because the boundaries are pretty much circumscribed. When we do the annual work plans for the ministries, everything is aligned. You start from Kenya Vision 2030, and then you come down and you cascade it down. And then we align it so that even if, Eric, you become a super minister in the next government and you want to go crazy, you won't go far crazy because pretty much the boundaries of what you can do are circumscribed. For example, in the next period, we are doing Isiolo Airport, we're doing this, we're doing this, we're doing this, we're doing this. And that is planned and budgeted for. It's in the budget process. So even if you come and you want to now take everything to your village in Ashuriri or wherever it is, you find that that's not possible because there's already limits to what you can do and where you can go and how far you can go, which is why it's important to involve the political players, particularly now when they're doing their political manifestos. Don't promise things which can't be delivered. Don't promise things which can't be delivered.
If only that is something that actually could be followed. Yeah. But so are we saying that the plans that have been given are involving the custodians of these particular offices or areas, and the plan is being followed? So are you saying year on year from the establishment in 2008 that things have been happening annually, which is according to plan, in the manner in which it was originally designed to be?
That's an unequivocal yes. What we argue about and what we are worried about is the level of achievement. You set out to achieve 10 things and you find in the year you've only done 4 for one reason or another.
Being over-ambitious, being wrong.
Also, and when people sit to plan, there's a way in which work expands to fill the time available for it. You can do a job in 10 minutes. But if someone gives you a whole day to do it, you will spend the whole day doing the same job.
Right.
So when you find central planning going on, there has been a tendency to overpopulate spreadsheets. You sit there, you're doing a spreadsheet, we're planning the water sector, for example. So you have all these hard-working public servants, and we sit there and we put everything in, we fill the page. But
17 dams.
26, this, the other, blah, blah, blah. But you see, to achieve even one of them requires so many things to be in tandem. There's a funding, you have done the procurement, the tenderers have, you've done tendering successfully, then you go to implementation, and it's a chain, it's a long chain. To achieve anything in government, actually, it's a feat.
Why don't we hear more of what has been achieved? Why don't we see, even if it was one thing, even if it's one thing, Kevin, that Ken, sorry, even if it's one thing that airport A has been established, dam what has been built, why don't we see the communication that is? Because I'm a believer that development begets development. Excuse me. And that if you see that one thing has been achieved, it kind of spurs in the mind the imagination that more and encourages that more can be done.
Yes.
Why don't we see this? Why don't we have communication from your side that this and this and this is happening?
Okay, I think you put your finger on the pulse, really, which is the difficulty or the problem we have of communicating government's work and successes. It is a fact. If you live in Nairobi right now, outside this studio, you're inconvenienced by what is going on. You can see that. Everyone can see that. If you go to any sector of the economy, all of us can see the COVID. By the way, don't waste a good crisis, has given a tremendous boost to our health sector. Tremendous boost in terms of preparedness, in terms of bed space, in terms of just ramping up. So we've got development in the hospital sector, in the health sector, which would have taken probably 10 years organically, but it has been given a boost, a negative boost, I would say, because of COVID. So the problem we have in this country has been ineffective public communication. Ineffective. It happens, but it is not effective, and that speaks directly to what you're saying. You know, I mean, you drive on the roads, you're carried around, you see what's happening, you can see this development, but there's a way in which we need to improve from the government side how we are communicating these things to the public. And communication is important. It's not just telling you we have built a new road, or we have a new dam, or we have a new hospital, or we have brought CBC, new curriculum. It is also an informed citizenry is able to give you feedback.
Sure.
An informed citizenry is able to tell you this is working, this is not working. And then the goods of the constitution, public participation, all those nice things we wanted to be in our engagement with the government. So all those things happen, but we are working on it. In fact, there's a circular by the head of public service, dated only 2 weeks ago, 24th of August. And between the Vision Delivery Secretariat and the Presidential Delivery Unit, we are trying to see how we can curate all these stories which have happened in the last 10 years, and then find a way of overcoming the block. Because government does so many things, but the citizen somehow is not aware of, somehow. And then you find there's a lot of apathy and anger towards government. Watu wamekasirika.
Yes.
Kasirika tu, wanatembea tu na hasira. And when you're in government, you're like, man, we work hard, eh? We're working hard.
We don't know.
We're working
And
hard.
yet people are pissed off.
But people are just pissed off.
Why are they annoyed?
People are just annoyed. So,
Kenneth Mwege is the Director General of the Vision 2030 Delivery Secretariat. We are talking about Vision 2030. Is this Vision 2030 still on track in this country? That's what he's answering about. Can that seat that you occupy there is the same seat that the President of Estonia was sitting on Friday?
from your lips to God's ears.
Yeah? So this is it. Make sure you don't declare your political ambitions early.
No.
KRA will be dispatched on you very shortly. When she was talking to us, she was talking about the vision that the country had and the journey that they took within a very short span of years, 25 years or so, to where they are now. Digitally, they are connected completely. 99% of government services are accessible through online. Every citizen, every adult citizen has an ID, an electronic ID, and they operate like that.
Yep.
And it's because, she was saying, it's because the leadership of the country was focused on what needed to be done, and they knew what needed to be done, and they were getting it done. Now, in Kenya, in fact, at that point we were having this conversation, we said, we also have Vision 2030. And we have been seeing things happening. When you talk about, getting online, yes, we have all these services that now you can access online that you could not access a couple of years ago. But the communication and the coordination seems to be completely left hand, right hand, left arm, all over, right? So what is the job of the Secretariat is it in harmonizing the activities of government, or is it in communicating, or is it in just taking reports? Somebody else is doing the work, you just go, hebu niambie last week mulifanya nini? Then you just tick and produce a report, but you have nothing at all to do with making sure that people understand what their job is.
Okay, Estonia. Estonia is one of those small European countries which have done extremely well. In fact, in terms of IT, In the IT information technology world, in terms of software development, they are world leaders. Their coders are second to none in Estonia. Now, the problem we have of comparing countries is that Estonia doesn't have 47 tribes. Estonia is not like Kenya in our unique basket of circumstances, which is peculiarly Kenyan. So, in a way, there's a way in which I tend to think sometimes Kenya succeeds. The successes we record and they are substantial. It's a lot of the times despite ourselves, because take a good example. We're building beautiful. At great cost, we're building beautiful roads and highways, which will open up the country and connect people and connect places. But we have old wine. Going on to the new wineskins. The fastest lane on any highway in Kenya today is the left lane.
Yep.
Where all the slow trucks are supposed to be.
Yep.
Why? Because Kenyans must be on the overtaking lane, even if you're doing 60 kilometers per hour. So you find a tailback on a highway, not because the highway is inefficient or it can't carry the people, but our behavior is negating the gains which are supposed to be done by the highway. So there's a very serious way in which we also need to look at our own behavior as Kenyans and how it contributes to pulling us back. 99% of the traffic jams you find are caused by two mentally challenged people who can't give each other way. So Eric blocks Ndu, and Ndu blocks Eric. So in that mix, when you two are blocking each other, Ken comes and tries to overtake on the left to leave you guys alone, to continue with your argument. And then I cause a jam on that side, and before you know it, there's a gridlock. All you had to do was let each other pass. I give you way, she gives you way, and the traffic moves. So there are software
all we
issues.
needed was traffic lights at work.
Or
Perhaps,
perhaps
we just needed traffic lights that would work, and then Eric and Ndu would not have to
wouldn't have to
argue.
if we had an option,
Yes.
and I think this is it, that for a lot of the things that we say Kenyans ought to be held responsible, dumping garbage, overlapping, doing this or the other. If I had the solution if I had the solution that didn't require me to do this, then we wouldn't have this problem.
Yes and no, because let's stick to the example we've just given. What do you need to be told to just give way? Let somebody pass on the intersection. Like intersections, right? You find that somebody's blocking the exit for other people. They're going nowhere. They're in traffic. You're going nowhere. And the person who's coming to pass there to go on the other direction will not take your place in the line. But what's a Kenyan thing? Block. And then you don't even look sideways.
Don't look sideways. You make sure that you're...
Do not make eye contact. And then you just sit there. So there are software issues we have, which are really bringing down the hardware. And we're all busy doing hardware. We're trying to figure out how do you now do culture change. Must Kenyans be taught how to drive on highways? Must you be told, don't throw rubbish everywhere? There will be a bin. In your car, have a paper bag, put your rubbish there. When you get to where you're going, there will be a bin. But you can't put bins on the highway so that you can throw rubbish on them.
So I hear you saying all of this is laced with the proverbial bad manners.
Yeah, we there's room for improvement. I think let's say that way. There's room for improvement.
There's a lot of room for improvement,
across the whole spectrum.
I would not wish us to go down this rabbit hole, but let's just go to and then we come back out. If government was providing all the services that it ought to provide, the citizens would follow suit.
That's a quantum leap.
I strongly hold
That's
that.
a quantum leap.
I strongly hold that.
Justify.
Part of the reason why you see people behaving the way they behave on the road is because of their lived experience.
Yes.
It's because I know if I am caught up in a gridlock right now, if I just zubar, I'll be here for 5 hours.
I'll get home for...
Because I have seen it happen before. I'm not the one who caused it.
Yes.
Somebody else caused it.
Yes.
But there wasn't enough. Traffic police did not react in good time. Somebody who should have come to remove that, to unlock that gridlock, did not move in good time.
Yes.
And why is it that happened? There was a fender bender. Insurance has told you, do not accept liability until a police officer comes and fills it out, and then you can go and make your claim. That police officer will not appear there for 2 hours.
True, and the traffic has backed up. Okay, you raise a very
some of those
important point.
things. So if those soft issues of making sure that things are happening efficiently were working, traffic lights are working all the time. This traffic light is green, that other one is green. Not this one is green, that other one is red. So you are confused of, so am I
Should I go or should I?
Yes.
Or should I stay?
Should I go, should I stay? If those things were working, then now we can start talking about the other software issues.
There's a deeper point that you've raised, which is good, which is there's a lack of certainty of punishment. The reason human beings follow traffic lights and follow rules and regulations is not because they are very good people. It is because there's certainty of punishment. That is why if you go to a developed country, the offense of jaywalking is taken seriously, because that's a camera there, that's a camera there, that's a camera there, and you know someone is looking at the camera, and you know action will be taken.
Yes.
You know the certainty of punishment. In Kenya and in many third world countries and developing countries, there is a certainty of negotiation.
Right.
Yeah, the certainty of negotiation.
And in both, there's the historical aspect of it
Correct,
as well.
and then there's a history of it.
Yeah.
So, you can get away with, the attitude is up to murder. You can pretty much talk your way out of situations, You can negotiate. So even if you're caught doing something wrong, you're not sure that you'll get punished. There's always ongea vizuri, tutaongea vizuri. So that's a very good point. Certainty of punishment is one of the things which are necessary for development, because if everything is negotiable, then nothing sticks. There's no point having rules and regulations if everything is negotiable. It should be inflexible, that you do some things in the public space. In your private space, do what you want. But in the public space, you shouldn't have an option to behave like an ass.
Sure. In your position, I mean, obviously, this is because from what I hear you say, just looking at the vision that you'd have for this country moving forward. So it encompasses everybody else's action, whether you want to, I mean, and it's a heavy thing as a delivery unit to be able to do, right? But then it also requires unprecedented congruence between every single participating body. That means everybody ought to be on the same line. Is it possible to have that? Because this is what we see in countries where this works.
Yes.
We can use the Estonia example, use the China example. Big boy of the world at the moment. They've done and are still doing the same thing, whereby everybody understands the vision, everybody has latched onto it, and everybody is implementing it as they ought to. Why?
And nobody has the rights there that you have in your constitution here. That's the next thing.
Well, look at other countries where it does.
Yes.
Look at other countries where it does, where they're not necessarily trampling on human rights, but are actually getting the job done because they've understood that this vision is something that ought to and can be implemented by everybody across board.
Yes.
There's an element of difficulty now when we look at it in the Kenyan context.
True.
Why is that? And what can be done to scale that particular barrier?
Okay, the first big deficit which we're actively trying to address now is a communication part of it. What is your role in improving your own environment? There's a way in which we say it's a very Kenyan thing. You must be familiar with this by now. Tunaomba serikali, tunaomba serikali. So help comes from either from heaven, the Lord,
or government,
or government,
right below it.
Yeah, but as a citizen, you are helpless and powerless, and you sit there waiting for either God or the government to help you. Now, this is psychologists who need to unpack that. Is it 100 years of colonization? What is it? Is it African culture? What is it? Why must you be so helpless and you look only upwards to either government or God to help you? So that's a different conversation. But what there is here is we recognize the deficit of information that the citizen has, which is not making them become an empowered participator in the vision. You're just sitting there waiting for manna from heaven or goodies from government, but you have a responsibility as an individual, and it starts where you live, in your house. It starts with your immediate environment. It starts with your compound. It starts by saying we don't want to live in a dirty place. We can pick up this rubbish. We don't have to sit around here with banana peels and mosquitoes and flies all over the place saying, where is this county government and why don't they come and pick the rubbish? So it's that we have to bridge that gap and make the citizen connect with their responsibility to the improvement of their fortunes.
Yes.
Yeah, if, for example, we all want to get home in the evening, we're all tired.
Sure.
Our children are all waiting at home. We all want to get home, all of us. We have the same need to get home to our families. Now, instead of fighting each other to get home, it's easier to cooperate. I let you pass, you let me pass. She lets her pass, I let the other person pass. That's what we are lacking. So that Kenyans feel it's me against the world. Huh? So you walk around with your arms up and you're ready to throw a punch at the next person who says anything. So there's a way in which someone would say Kenyans walk around as if we're under siege. There's a siege mentality and a very defensive posture.
I think it's indicative of something then, Ken.
Yeah.
It's indicative of one thing that we haven't been able to achieve
Yeah.
on the political pillar.
On the
of-
political
of-
pillar,
of the Vision 2030. We have a governance system, a government that does not feel that it's responsive to the people. It feels like it's reactive to the people. So people have sat. We've heard it here on very many times on this show. People saying we survived despite the government.
Yeah.
It's like we are here and the government is there.
Yeah.
And the reason why you see, for example, people in a certain neighborhood rising up and saying, come on, we want our government to come and collect the rubbish, is because people have clean houses. They have clean compounds.
It's common spaces. Which
It's the common spaces that have a problem.
Yeah.
And the government that should be dealing with those common spaces is not dealing with the common spaces. Vision 2030.
Yes.
Why is it that not many people know about Vision 2030 and the deliverables and the achievements, the milestones that we've already stuck with, hit? It's because the government does not feel the need to communicate to the people. We are doing our work. Nyinyi kama muoni barabara si shauri yenu. Kama tumejenga port shauri yenu. It ought to be a government coming to say that this is the Vision 2030 and constantly communicating. I will give you a complete direct example of what I mean by bad government attitude. The Vision 2030 Delivery Secretariat is not anchored in law. You're a department in a ministry. And yet you have this crucial role of steering the country's long-term blueprint. That tells you there's a big, serious problem with government in terms of attitude. It does not consider that Ken Mwige and the team have a very important space that they need to occupy here. You should be reporting to Parliament. You should be preparing reports that are looked at by Parliament, where Parliament is saying, yes, we have Vision 2030, this is where we are. The Budget Committee should be reviewing some of the reports that you have when they are considering budget. The Finance Committee should be reviewing the reports that you have. All government departments should be looking at, this is what Vision 2030 is saying.
Yeah.
But you don't do that. Why? Serikali.
No, let's come back. Let's come back to the attitude problem. I don't think it's, and I'm not just speaking now because I'm a government officer at the time being.
Yeah.
Government is trying. What we have is a deficit in achievement on communication, and that has been identified, and we're trying to do something about it. So you don't have an uncaring government that doesn't give a damn. No, I don't think that's a fair statement. Because apart from you'll find your few outliers, rotten eggs in any situation,
Yep,
even in this newsroom.
That's true.
But for the overwhelming majority, as far as I know, and I'm now speaking as honestly as I can, people are really trying. Government, civil servants are really trying, and we face the same hurdles and difficulties that you have. For example, if I want to do a project, just a simple project, any project,
Yep.
what it takes to line up all those ducks in a row in government,
Yep.
with the people pulling in all sorts of different directions, interests of all kinds, to get any project off the ground is a miracle in and of itself. In terms of the practicalities of how things get done. Is it in the procurement plan? Is there a budget for it? Okay, there's a budget for it, yes, but has Exchequer been released? You know, it's September. It's the first quarter of the year. You have to pay your taxes for 1 or 2 months before I get my money to spend to make your life better. So and then you find that, for example, there are delays in Exchequer release because of the larger macroeconomic climate. So you find that your funds are coming in, one tranche will come in around November, then you expect another one in May, in March or April. And then you have to do your planning, and then you have to procure. And then she loses her tender, and then she goes to
PPP.
tribunal, you know, and then you're there for 3 months, and then it's now April. Where is your project? You know, so it's that's why I say it's actually, when you see government has achieved something, please have some respect for what it takes.
You know what?
But that's what
to do it.
That's exactly
So
what I
on
meant.
communication, Eric, on communication, it's conceded. There's room for improvement. That's conceded.
That's fine.
Yeah.
That one we okay.
But please don't ascribe.
I am actually not talking about the civil servants, the public servants who work in government. Very good. You know, people who are seriously. We keep talking about it here. People who serious experience. People who go to other countries. And they will get the senior most jobs
all the brains
in other
you get,
governments.
in the government.
It is the political system of government. That is where our problem is.
Now
And that's what I was saying. For example, if our political system of government was serious, the Vision 2030 Delivery Secretariat, and this is not a brief that I got from you, this is what I have seen before. I asked Mugo Kibati when he was the Director General, up to date. It is not anchored in law.
Yeah.
Why is that, Ken?
I don't know. Maybe they haven't had a lawyer in charge to try and see whether they can do an act of parliament.
And now there's one.
Now there's one. Yes, I mean, I'm going to see what I can do to advance that agenda, to anchor the vision on a more certain legal foundations. Because indeed, when you establish a gazette notice is undone by another gazette notice. It's a stroke of the pen.
Yep.
It won't happen, of course, but because government is serious on Vision 2030 and the long-term planning for this country, it won't happen. But of course, it helps when you have a stronger legal foundation and also mechanisms of reporting directly to the people.
Sure.
On government communication, I can't say this enough. All citizens know that there have been improvements. There's no citizen in this country who has not been touched in the last 10 years by one or other development. None. Any part of this country.
Yeah.
If you look at the coastal part of, look at Lamu, for example, a county like Lamu. Lamu didn't have an inch of tarmac since independence until about a few years ago. An inch of tarmac anywhere in the whole county. If you talk to our friends and brothers who come from the northern part of the country, what used to be called NFD, Northern Frontier District, Kenya, when you visit there, they send you with greetings to Kenya because they don't belong in Kenya. Now you have roads which have opened up. The most beautiful roads in this country, if you ask me, are in northern Kenya. I love that road. I love driving to Moyale for the heck of it. Just to open your mind.
Road.
It's a beautiful road. Just to open your mind and also to realize how big Kenya is. And we are all clustered down here in Nairobi and along the colonial railway, fighting over plots of land of 50 and 100. Just small thinking. So this country has really opened up. It has really opened up. The deficit is in communication.
Sure. And even, can I jump on that, Ken? Because, I often think, and often say that the problem is where we see that, and we will often shout and say, well, there's no development taking place, which as you said, is not true.
It's not true.
Right? But development goes to die in secrecy.
Yeah, true.
And, I mean, we can stick on this, and it could be one thing that, I won't forget the New Zealand Prime Minister in her 2-minute spiel about the things that she had done over 2 years. It was fantastic because it's not as though New Zealanders did not know what she had done. But she took a moment to say, you know what, in 2 minutes, I'm going to tell you all these things that we've been able to do across border. It was brilliant. And then people were able to now take that and ride on it and say, you know what, look at actually what has happened. We are encouraging for more to happen.
Yeah.
You talk about Moyale, that road today. You talk about the things that have happened in the coast of Kenya. You talk about things that have happened through and through. It's not as though Kenyans don't know. Especially people in the area, if they're going to be honest and say, yes, development has taken place. But, it's just, you talk about, and then there are also challenges. And you talk about the challenges that reside in having to do this job. But then if, Exchequer has not released funds, you're not, and I think in being open about some of these things, you're actually also giving, in being open about the difficulties, you're giving the impetus to Kenyans to also be aware of how these things actually work. And then they will be involved in a change-making process. In my opinion, there is a way to get beyond some of these hurdles as opposed to playing the cards so close to the chest. And then Kenyans will reserve the right to tell you what Vision 2030 is a dud.
They're justified to be angry. If you don't know what's happening, you have a right to say there's nothing happening. So, and that's a challenge you've been facing. You find somebody sitting in a, let's not talk about roads. Development is not just about roads, and Vision 2030 is not just about roads. Let's talk about hospitals or Huduma Center. The best example is a Huduma Center. We have forgotten, Kenyans, just 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago, what it used to take to get a replacement ID or to get a replacement driver's license. Or to get a replacement any official document, or to apply for a birth certificate. We have completely forgotten the total absolute nightmare that it used to be. Now it is so easy. You walk to one of the 52 Huduma centers, you sit there, you've come with your problems of driver's license, birth certificate, title deed, I don't know what, and you spend 1 day or half a day there, and you walk out and you've solved very many of your problems. Before it used to be enda community, alafu kutoka hapo enda Sheria House, alafu kutoka hapo enda uangalia ama wamefungua ile ofisi huko, alafu kutoka hapo enda Survey of Kenya. You'll do the same job over a month and at great expense. So all those people you find in Huduma centers, if you give them a microphone and ask them, serikali inafanya kazi? No, they will not remember that. They will start talking about the other problem which is outside. The other problem which is outside there.
Which leads me to ask you, Ken.
There's a way in which you can't win.
There are developments happening, yes.
Yes.
But can we of necessity say that these developments are in line with Vision 2030? Or is it that developments are happening despite Vision 2030?
No. I think let's clarify that. Everything you see done, everything, even including in the counties, is aligned to Kenya Vision 2030. Let me just explain this again. We when you're doing the planning at the national level, we do the medium-term plan. And all the ministries and national government knows what's supposed to do. At the counties, they have county development plans,
Yes.
CIDPs.
Yeah.
And all these are aligned to Kenya Vision 2030. That's the beauty of this thing. It doesn't work perfectly, of course, because you'll find that, in half the counties, maybe they're not as fastidious, maybe they're not as serious, maybe they didn't follow the guidelines as well as they did. But by and large, when talking about a national enterprise, Kenya is a big enterprise. When talking about a national enterprise, when you take the average across everything, you find that by and large, I would say 60-70% is aligned. The problem would be in execution. Do they manage to execute the 69 things they put in the work plan instead of putting 5 things? And I'm a believer in putting few things and doing them well.
Do you tell them this?
That's my mantra. I say, cut this out. We don't need to have 17 things on this page. Reduce them to 3 or 4. Because when there are 3 or 4, you will execute them well. But when there are 17, you're distracted.
Sure.
What do you touch? Do I touch here? Do I touch there? On Wednesday, do I touch here? Then I'll go back on Monday. Where did I touch? When you have few things, you do them well. For example, even in terms of national planning, one of the biggest problems we're having right now is drought. Drought is lack of water for water for irrigation and for livestock and for human beings. Water. This is 80 years since independence. We're still talking about water.
Yep.
Northern Kenya, where all the pastoralists, most of Kenya's animal herds are, you find a county has sunk only 13 boreholes in 10 years. Okay? The cost of a borehole is $1 million bob. All right? One vehicle in the fleet of the county government
It's $1 million bob.
is what million bob?
million.
Is 16 million.
Yep.
All right? So one vehicle, depending on what it is,
Could have done
one vehicle could have done
10 to
16
16
boreholes. How is it that the leadership of the places which are water stressed do not prioritize water?
So do you see now why Kenyans would say that you're not doing anything?
Yes, precisely. So, but you see, these are challenges now we are trying to face up and say, guys, let's get serious. Don't plan to do 1 million things. Plan to do 3 things and do them well.
Absolutely.
And do them well.
Let
Just
them
do
work.
3 things and do them well. Solve the water problem. Finish that. Then we have many problems in this world and in our lives. So after you finish that one, turn around and say, okay, which is the next one we should tackle?
Yeah. It's 5 minutes to 9. Time for us to say goodbye to our audience on KTN Home who've been with us till the top of the hour. The conversations continue on Spice FM around the country. A comment here by Johnson who says, if Vision 2030 was working, you would not need to be told it's working. Development is self-evidence. If I have to tell you that your life is better, then maybe it
Maybe
isn't.
it's not. Point well taken, but I hope he's not doing that from Thika Superhighway or a hospital which has come up recently or in a Huduma center or any of the other small things.
Yeah, he doesn't
All
know
over
whether
the
his
place.
life has become better. You need to
Yeah.
tell him.
Yes.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.